miss you all. I love you all.
She's such a bright light in the world, and it's not fair what happened.
Tonight, a mother murdered, her husband charged, and the investigation full of twists and turns.
It didn't have to happen. It didn't need to happen.
For the next 30 minutes, your local station will dedicate our coverage to the Ana Walshe investigation. Good evening, I'm Vanessa Welch.
And I'm Mark Ockerblum, the Cohasset mother of three, now at the center of tragedy. January 5th, the first time we showed you these photos now synonymous with a heartbreaking crime. Ana Walshe of Cohasset, a 39-year-old mother of three, reported missing, not seen since New Year's Day.
I got a call from her husband asking me if, given the close relationship I have with Ana, and if I had spoken to her or talked to her or heard anything from her.
She was supposed to fly to Washington, D.C. for work, but never made it. That Thursday was also the first time we'd see Brian Walsh, Ana's husband, who quickly turned from our cameras.
Is this 516? Oh, hey.
No. January 6th, as crews search for Ana in the woods near her home, the mystery of her disappearance grows.
At this point, we cannot confirm that she actually got into a rideshare in Cohasset.
Suddenly, news breaks that Ana's former home burst into flames not far away.
This case has so many twists and turns, and that fire today was one of them. I've never seen anything like it.
A fiery clue? Not so much. Investigators ruled it an accident and unrelated to the case. On Sunday, January 8th, 1 week since Ana vanished, a bombshell rocks the quiet South Shore community of Cohasset.
Breaking news first here at 10 o'clock. The husband of a missing mother in Cohasset has been arrested. The district attorney says Brian Walsh is charged with misleading a police investigation.
On Monday, January 9th, charged with misleading police, Brian Walsh is led into Quincy District Court, where more twists awaited inside. Prosecutors say a bloody knife was found inside the Walsh home, and video showed Brian inside a Rockland Home Depot the day after Ana vanished, purchasing hundreds of dollars worth of cleaning supplies. Electronic evidence tracked him there. In 2021, Brian Walsh pled guilty to selling a pair of fake Andy Warhol paintings. He's under house arrest awaiting sentencing and can only leave his Cohasset home with federal permission. Later that night, hours after Walsh returned to his holding cell, news broke on the North Shore.
Sources tell Boston 25 News a dumpster was towed from husband Brian Walsh's mother's apartment complex in Swampscott, about 8 miles from where we're standing, to this trash transfer station here in Peabody, just off of Route 1. Police have been searching through the contents of that dumpster for more than 5 hours now.
It wasn't until January 10th when we started to learn what investigators had found in Peabody.
The Norfolk DA confirms items of evidence were recovered at the garbage dump, and we now know what some of those items are. Multiple sources tell 25 Investigates a hacksaw and a blood-soaked rug were bagged as evidence.
On that Tuesday, video also surfaced of Brian Walsh at a Norwell juice bar, not far from that Rockland Home Depot where all those cleaning items were purchased. The video was taken one day after Ana vanished. Wednesday, January 11th. Still no sign of Ana, and the only development in the case would be news of more surveillance video.
We have confirmed that state police are now in possession of video surveillance of Brian Walsh outside a dumpster in Swampscott near a liquor store, near a Whole Foods. That's the area where he said he was on January 1st, which is the day that Ana Walsh disappeared. So very interesting development there.
Less than 24 hours later, on January 12th, we break a new development, not in Massachusetts, but D.C., where Ana lived. First at 5, breaking news in the case of a missing Cohasset mother. Boston 25 has uncovered a police report from 2014 where then Ana Knipp told officers Brian Walsh threatened to kill her and her friends. And as that story aired, the people of Cohasset, a self-described hometown community, gathered to pray for Ana and her family.
You know, it shattered our little idyllic town. So it happens everywhere. Things can happen everywhere, but when it happens in this type of setting, it's just even more of a shock.
Since Brian Walsh was taken into custody, the couple's 3 boys, ages 2, 4, and 6, remained in state custody, their mother missing, a father in a jail cell. In the days to come, we'd learn of search warrants returned and sealed, and that according to police logs, it was Ana's employer in D.C. and not her husband Brian who first reported her missing. But still not the news Cohasset waited for. until suddenly on the afternoon of January 17th, when everything changed.
The continued investigation has now allowed police to obtain an arrest warrant charging Brian Walsh with the murder of his wife. Mr. Walsh will be transported to the Quincy District Court for arraignment on the charge of murder.
Still to come tonight, shocking moments at an arraignment for murder.
The alarming Google searches Brian Walsh allegedly made while using his child's iPad.
Plus, who is Brian Walsh? A look into the past reveals deception and allegations of greed.
And the uncertain future Ana's 3 children now face, with their father charged with murder. It was on Wednesday, January 18th, we'd see Brian Walsh led into Quincy District Court for a second time, now charged with murder.
No one was prepared for what would happen inside. Our Bob Ward was there.
Do you understand those charges, Mr. Walsh?
I do. Even though Brian Walsh had little to say at his murder arraignment, his words, allegedly found in Google searches, hung heavy. Brian Walsh is charged with killing and dismembering his wife, Ana Walshe, missing since New Year's Day. Prosecutor Lynn Beelan laid out for the court a mountain of evidence against Brian Walsh, including a series of internet searches found on his young son's iPad. And they start at 4:55 a.m. on January 1st. How long before a body starts to smell? 3 minutes later, at 4:58 a.m., how to stop a body from decomposing. Less than an hour later, at 5:47, another search. 10 ways to dispose of a dead body if you really need to. At 6:25 a.m., a hint of a possible motive. How long for someone to be missing to inherit? And 9 minutes later, at 6:34 a.m., can you throw away body parts? Later that morning, more searching. At 11:34, dismemberment and best ways to dispose of a body. The next day, January 2nd, the Google searches grew more grim. At 12:45 p.m., hacksaw, best tool to dismember. At 1:10 p.m., can you be charged with murder without a body? And at 1:14 p.m., this unsettling search. Can you identify a body with broken teeth? Later on January 2nd, Walsh was recorded on video surveillance wearing a face mask and gloves, buying cleaning supplies and a hatchet. The next day, Tuesday, January 3rd, another set of Google searches. At 1:13 p.m., what is the rate of decomposition of a body found in a plastic bag compared to on the surface in the woods? And at 1:20 p.m., can baking soda make a body smell good? Hours later, starting at 4:27 p.m., the prosecutor says Brian Walsh is seen with his Volvo at dumpsters at 2 apartment complexes in Abington and 1 in Brockton, struggling with heavy trash bags. Police never found those bags.
These bags and what was in them were already picked up and taken to a location for shredding and to be incinerated. By the time police located that, they were already destroyed.
But north of Boston, a search of a dumpster near Brian Walsh's mother's house at a transfer station in Peabody yielded 10 trash bags of evidence. Inside, police found Ana Walsh's COVID-19 vaccination card, hunter boots, Prada purse, and pieces of her necklace. Also, they found a hatchet, hacksaw, and cutting shears. The bags also contained a medical suit, slippers, and rugs that contained blood with DNA that matched both Ana and Brian Walsh. Before the arraignment wrapped up, the prosecutor said there was one more Google search. On December 27, 2022, days before Ana Walsh vanished, what's the best state to divorce for a man?
Our Bob Ward reporting. In a statement, Brian Walsh's attorney, Tracy Miner, says in part, quote, "It is easy to charge a crime and even easier to say a person committed that crime. It is much more difficult thing to prove it, which we will see if the prosecution can do."
Still to come tonight, attorneys discuss the difficulty of trying a murder case without a body.
Plus a cryptic text to Ana's mother and multiple missed calls in the middle of the night.
And the reason some say Brian's father wrote his son out of the will.
Welcome back to Boston 25 News in-depth special on the murder of Ana Walsh. 1 week before she vanished, Ana reached out to her mother in Serbia on December 25th, Christmas Day. The text read, quote, "Please, Mama, come tomorrow," a request her mother denied. When Fox Digital asked if a reason was given for the urgency, Milanka Lubicic replied no. Later adding, on December 31st, she missed 2 calls from Ana's phone around midnight. A third missed call came in at 1 a.m. Failed calls were also placed that night to her sister and maid of honor. Ana's mother told media in Serbia she was asleep, adding, quote, "I can't forgive myself for that." She also told Serbian reporters she visited Ana and Brian for 16 months and did not get the sense that anything was wrong between the couple.
2 days before Ana vanished, 25 Investigates learned she sold her Revere condo for $220,000, a 60% profit from the 2020 purchase price. Brian Walsh was listed as the seller's spouse on the paperwork. Ana Walsh owned at least 4 properties worth $1.8 million, according to records obtained by CNN. 2 in Massachusetts, 1 in Washington, and 1 in Baltimore. Brian Walsh is not a co-owner. Since 2018, Ana Walsh sold at least $2.7 million worth of properties. Now, before being charged with murder, Brian Walsh had already been in trouble with the law. He was accused of selling a pair of fake Andy Warhol paintings. These are those paintings. In 2021, he pleaded guilty and was awaiting sentencing. That's why he was on house arrest in Cohasset in order to wear an electric monitoring device. The owner of Revolver Gallery in L.A., Ron Rivlin, was the victim of the art scam. He lost $80,000 to Walsh. In a statement to Boston 25, Rivlin says, quote, "Myself, the FBI, and the DA had trouble breaking him down, getting him to change his not guilty pleas, apologize, repay his victims, and get sentenced. Lawyers, courts, all that, and he still did not voluntarily settle. He never apologized."
Brian's father, Thomas Walsh, died in 2018. The will was destroyed by Brian, a longtime friend of Thomas's, told Boston 25 News. Before it was destroyed, a photo was taken, and we obtained a copy through Plymouth probate court paperwork. On page 16 of the court paperwork, the will of Thomas Walsh reads, quote, "I hereby bequeath to Brian R. Walsh my best wishes, but nothing else from my estate." The friend, who does not want his name used, says Brian Walsh conned his father Thomas out of hundreds of thousands of dollars and then disappeared from his father's life. Court documents also allege that Brian destroyed the will and tried to take control of his father's estate.
As Brian got older, he sort of lost touch with how people make it in the world and just assumed a mantle of entitlement. There were signs he was a con artist. There was more than signs. There was ample examples. But there was never a mean streak. There was never even an angry stare. There are violent criminals, and there are swindlers and grifters. There are all kinds of criminals. And they're usually not blended. So I was shocked when I heard it. All the people that I know that know Brian, because Brian was a regular fixture in his father's homes, are equally shocked. No one said it was just a matter of time. Everyone is shocked.
Court documents say another family friend provided a statement to the courts which described Brian Walsh as not only a sociopath, but also an angry and physically violent person.
Ana had 3 children, all boys, ages 2, 4, and 6. We've been told they're in DCF custody, which means relatives or a foster family is now caring for them. Ana's friend, Alyssa Kirby, spoke about Ana's desire to have the children in Washington, D.C. with her.
In her house here in D.C., she has their rooms all set up, and everything in the rooms is like special to each child. And she would keep their beds made and their sheets clean and waiting for the time that her kids could come here.
Throughout this investigation, we've spoken with former federal prosecutors, former U.S. attorneys, and lawyers here in Boston.
And they all agree proving guilt without a body is tough, but not impossible.
The government's very lucky here in 2 ways. Number one, he had that ankle monitor and he was under house arrest, which then begs the question, why was he in Salem, in Peabody, and elsewhere throughout these days after her disappearance? And then the technology on those devices certainly are incredible. So scientific evidence, the computer forensic evidence here, and the experts that the government has eventually testifying to that evidence will be critical in terms of their reliability and expertise.
That evidence alone, what was in those devices, is not sufficient to sustain a conviction of murder.
I wouldn't rush to judgment yet on this case and declare it over. However, I will concede, though, that it really was a particularly strong bunch of evidence that they laid out for the public.
Joining us now to talk about the Ana Walshe case is Boston 25 News reporter Bob Ward.
Bob, you have been a reporter for decades. What stands out most to you with this case compared to others that you've covered?
Well, at first, I think I was drawn in by just the inconsistencies here, the mystery of it. You know, where is Ana Walshe? What happened to her? Was this a suicide? Did she take off, or was she a victim of foul play? But now that we're at this point, I think the depravity of this case, I have a hard time wrapping my head around this, that somebody would go to these lengths to dispose of a body. Of course, these are allegations, but I am just kind of struck by that and just how vicious and brutal this case was.
I think we all are.
Yeah.
Certainly people hang on every word, especially at that arraignment the second time. Let's talk about your sources. I know they've been providing you a lot of information, and you've been breaking a lot of stories on this case. Now, with a little bit of a lull here, do you think you're going to hear anything else in the meantime?
I do think there's a lot more information that will surface. The very first thing that will surface eventually is going to be the results of all those search warrants that, you know, there was a lot of searching of the dumpsters and everything. We just got a glimpse of that. So there's going to be physical evidence that we are going to be made aware of. But more than that, I think we're going to find out what the motive for this crime is, what authorities believe the motive for this crime was. They hinted at it at the arraignment, when there was a Google search for inheritance. So that suggests there was something about money here, and also that other search about divorce days before anything happened to Ana Walshe. Those are going to be important signposts to watch, and I expect we'll be getting more information about that.
We have gone in depth with the physical evidence, the digital evidence, telling our viewers and walking them through what you have uncovered and what prosecutors have told us. Can you describe for us, Bob, what it was like to be in that courtroom when all these details, these horrific details, were presented?
Well, you could hear a pin drop when this got going. I mean, we walked into that hearing not expecting much. I expected to hear maybe some of the forensics that would come back that would signal why authorities thought that Ana was dead. Maybe DNA on the knife, for example, in the basement, or the blood in the basement, or from the rug. I did not expect to be hearing internet searches, especially 20 internet searches. So as that was unrolling, it was just the other reporters were quiet. We were scribbling down our notes as fast as we could. And then I was looking up at Brian Walsh himself, and he was just subdued. He was not like that smart alecky guy that we saw a week and a half earlier. A completely different atmosphere in there. And after it was all over, it was kind of like a gut punch. When you looked at the totality of all those things that we heard, it was like a gut punch.
It really was. Bob, we appreciate all your reporting you've done so far. We know you'll have much more to come on this as well, but nice job, and thanks for sharing that with us tonight.
Thank you.
Incredible job.
Thank you.
And next on this Boston 25 News in-depth special, Ana's friends gather for a celebration of life. With a trial still to come, Brian Walsh's future is unclear.
For Ana's friends, one spoke with Boston 25 News reporter Drew Caritas about saying goodbye.
The world has lost a great person. It didn't have to happen. It didn't need to happen.
In between the agonizing disbelief and immense grief that follow the murder of a South Shore mother, friend, and businesswoman, there is reflection on Ana Walsh's legacy.
It's astounding, right? Like, most people go through life and we all want to make an impact, and she truly did, right? And it's sad that it's only going to be measurable now.
Peter Rader says the measure of Ana's impact was inspiring during a private virtual celebration of life. The tribute bonded different friends who had met Ana at different stages since she emigrated from Serbia to the United States in 2005.
Greetings from Boston. With less than 2 weeks since we were together that feel to me like more than 2 months, this too shall pass.
The assurance of Ana's voice and her drive for success resonated with Rader about 2 years ago when he met her through their work in the real estate industry.
Ana took the time to work with myself, my team, a marketing company, to set up all new branding and marketing for me, to make sure there were like unselfishly.
He says similar stories were shared by dozens of others who were also touched by the Cohasset mother of 3 young boys.
The people who spoke all said the same thing, that this dynamic, young, remarkable lady changed their lives, right? Like who does that?
Everyone now left with questions about Ana's final moments and where her 3 young boys, ages 2 to 6, were when it happened.
They were her world. I mean, you know, make no mistake about this. Everything she was doing was deliberate for those children, for her family.
Rader says he never met husband Brian Walsh and is not going to speculate on a motive.
There's a soul there too of some sort, and it may be an evil soul. It's not for me to decide that. It's for the courts. Brian, I don't know if you did this, right? Like, come clean, give some closure, right? Like that's if I could say something to him, that's what I would say to him.
Rader says Ana would never go a day without FaceTiming her kids if she was out of town, and he feared the worst from the moment he learned of her disappearance. He says she deserves to be properly laid to rest, and he says that's not possible because her remains have not been discovered. Formal funeral arrangements have not yet been made. In the control room, Drew Caritas for your local station, Boston 25 News.
And finally tonight, if you or a loved one is a victim of domestic violence, there are resources available.
The number for the National Domestic Violence Hotline is 1-800-799-7233. Again, 1-800-799-SAFE. Our coverage of Ana Walsh's murder continues on BostonTwenty5News.com.